Discover the heartwarming moment when a poor mom and her kids rescue a stranger, transforming their small town forever. Snowflakes started to swirl as Melissa tightened her grip on the steering wheel of their aging minivan. The chill in the air matched the heavy weight of her worries. She had spent the day hustling at the diner, serving greasy burgers and hot coffee to the regulars, then rushed straight to clean offices all night, all for 3 pairs of hungry eyes looking up at her. Yet, tonight, the light from their favorite holiday decorations glimmered against the dimming sky, giving her a brief glimmer of hope. Suddenly, her heart sank. There, stranded, with smoke pouring from the hood, was an elderly man in a tattered jacket, an unfamiliar figure lost along the side of the road. Melissa's instincts kicked in. "Kids, hold on," she exclaimed, her voice laced with urgency. They pulled over, and the moment she parked, her 3 children Alex, Jamie, and little Sophie hopped out, full of energy and determination. "Let us help him, Mom," Alex shouted, his optimism contagious. Melissa knew their small town had a reputation for skepticism, but in that icy moment, compassion coursed through her veins like a warm blanket. The kids circled around the old man, who introduced himself as Frank. His weary eyes told stories of burdens carried and time lost, bringing a rush of empathy into Melissa's heart. Together, they assessed the situation, tinkering with tools and asking questions as Frank chuckled at the kids' unfiltered enthusiasm. Melissa felt the icy grip of the world thaw slightly as they shared laughs, drawing out fragments of Frank's past. A veteran, a father, a lover of life's simple joys. They fixed the truck, but it became clear that healing was more than just mechanical. He needed human connection too. Yet, as the holiday lights flickered in the distance, Melissa wondered if this act of kindness would soon be shadowed by whispers from their neighbors. The holiday spirit could easily be dispelled by judgment, and there was that nagging fear would helping Frank ruin their delicate stability. Over the next few days, they found themselves tangled in a web of silence from familiar faces and hesitant smiles. Rumors began to swirl, tainted by Frank's troubled past. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Melissa watched her children grapple with their hearts versus their community's judgment. Inspired by their mom's selflessness, they stirred courage. At the next town meeting, they stood before familiar faces, voices shaky yet resolute. "But he helped us," Jamie pleaded, his young voice echoing with sincerity. As the community listened, tensions thickened the air, teetering on the brink of acceptance or division. Would they unite in compassion, or would prejudice tear them apart? As winter deepened, Melissa felt the weight of a choice ahead, one that could shift the very fabric of their lives. What would tomorrow hold for Frank and for the town, where kindness might be the ultimate battlefield? In the following days, the air felt heavier. The whispers of discontent seeped into every corner of Melissa's life. At the diner, customers exchanged uneasy glances as they sipped their coffee, and Jamie felt the sting of silence from classmates who had once been friends. It was as if a shadow had descended upon their home. But Melissa knew deep down that standing up for kindness came with its own set of challenges. One evening, while they gathered in the living room, the worn-out couch creaking beneath them, Frank visited again. His face showed signs of wear, but there was a light in his eyes that sparked hope. He had brought a small, gifted basket of fresh-baked bread, still warm from the oven. "I wanted to thank you," he said, his voice soft, a soft reminder of warmer days. Melissa felt a warmth swell in her chest. The smell of bread filled the air, wrapping around them like a hug. "You didn't have to do that," she replied, touched by his gesture. "It's not just about the bread. It's about coming together," Frank explained, looking at the kids who paused mid-bite to give him their full attention. You've all shown me kindness at a time when I needed it most. Alex, ever the enthusiastic one, spoke up. Can we show everyone else that we can be friends? If we show them you're not a stranger anymore, they might change their minds. Sophie piped in, her innocent sincerity brightening the mood. And everyone loves bread. Maybe we can share it with everyone. Melissa caught Frank's eyes, a smile sharing her heart's hope. The idea struck her like a bell ringing in the quiet night. What if they could host a small gathering? A chance to reconnect, a way for the community to meet Frank, see him for who he really was. Then let us do it, she declared, her mind racing with possibilities. We can make it a holiday potluck. Everyone loves food, and if they meet you, Frank, maybe they'll understand. Frank seemed taken aback, a mixture of gratitude and disbelief washing over his features. Are you sure that that's a good idea? I'm still just me. Melissa placed a gentle hand on his arm. You're more than just you. You're part of our community now. The planning became a beacon of excitement among her children. They set to work, colorful invitations written in crayon, baking cookies, and preparing foods. Melissa's heart swelled with pride as she watched her kids rally together. There buzzed some form of resistance against the frost of uncertainty that lingered outside. The big day arrived with a crisp chill, the sun shining bright and stark against the winter sky. They filled their modest home with decorations, a warm glow from string lights and the scent of cinnamon and nutmeg wafting through the air. Frank sat at the table, old and young alike mingling, sharing stories and laughter. But as the hour rolled on, the doorbell rang, and Melissa's heart raced. Would they come? Her pulse quickened, a cacophony of hope and fear mixing like the holiday lights twinkling above. As she opened the door, a group of neighbors stood there, unsure but curious, glancing sideways at Frank behind her. The moment felt suspended in time. Hi, one of them stammered, looking at the festive table behind her. We saw the invite and thought we'd stop by. Behind her, Frank stood up, the color ebbing from his face. Melissa sensed the moment hanging precariously. This was their chance. Would the warmth and love in their home be enough to thaw the icy walls of judgment? A silence filled the room, waiting for a heartbeat of acknowledgement. Would this gathering forge a path toward unity or deepen the divide? As she stepped back, letting the neighbors in, Melissa's thoughts bubbled with anticipation. Would kindness prevail in the face of scrutiny? It was just the beginning, but determination filled her heart. How would they face the challenges that lay ahead? And could this moment become the turning point in their story? As the door swung open wider, the hesitant neighbors stepped inside, their eyes widening at the sight before them. Laughter floated through the air, a gentle contrast to the tension that hung like a fog outside. Melissa's heart raced. This was a big step. Would others see what she had seen? Come in, she urged warmly, ushering them inside. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafted toward them, mingling with the sweetness of cookies still warm from the oven. It was a motley crew. Mrs. Harper from 2 doors down, her white hair carefully coiffed. The Johnsons from across the street, shy little Lizzie clinging onto her father's leg. Their wariness hung in the air, but Melissa noticed something small, yet significant, a glimmer of curiosity in their eyes. Jamie, after a moment of hesitation, rushed to the table, holding a plate of cookies aloft as though it were a prize trophy. We made these. Want try? He exclaimed, his voice brightening the room like the twinkling lights above. The neighbors exchanged uncertain glances, their smiles hesitant but hopeful. Well, I suppose a cookie wouldn't hurt, Mr. Johnson said finally, reaching for one with a cautious grin. Make sure to grab some bread, too. Alex chimed in, his enthusiasm infectious. Frank made it. The moment felt electric. As the neighbors hesitantly began to fill their plates, Melissa sank back against the nearby wall, her heart thumping loudly in her chest. Was this how change began? One small act of courage igniting the flame of connection? Frank is a good guy, she said, her voice breaking through the clamor of conversation. He has just had some rough times, like most of us. But he is trying. He deserves a chance. She glanced at Frank, who had taken a quiet seat at the edge of the dining table, unsure how to position himself in this unfamiliar setting, Mrs. Harper approached Frank, a tentative smile on her face. "I've heard about what happened, and I'm really glad you came tonight," she said, her eyes softening as she spoke. "It wasn't too much, but it was something." The ice began to crack. Frank's eyes widened, and Melissa noticed the flush of gratitude on his cheeks. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice barely a whisper. It was a brave step for him, acknowledging their presence and their kindness. The simplest act of sharing a cookie, a slice of bread, became something more profound. Conversations began to blossom among the neighbors, weaving tales of common struggles and laughter that filled the room. Outside, the chill of the winter night seemed to give way to a warmth that radiated within these walls. The sounds of discontent slowly faded, and in their place, a comforting buzz of community began to take root. Yet, just as the laughter swelled and spirits lifted, a hesitant knock landed on the door. This time, the rhythm of live music echoed faintly from the radio, highlighting the atmosphere. Melissa's stomach churned as she approached the door once more, uncertainty creeping in. "Who could it be now?" Jamie whispered, eyes wide with a mix of excitement and trepidation. As she opened the door, a familiar face appeared in the doorway, one filled with an expression that made her pulse quicken, dread etched alongside curiosity. "I heard there was a gathering." It was the town's mayor, accompanied by a couple of stern-looking board members. Melissa's heart sank. This could change everything. Would they embrace the warmth or only amplify the divide? She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and stood ready to face the unexpected challenge. How would they respond this time? Would they jeopardize what had just begun to bloom? The air was thick with uncertainty, and Melissa knew the moment had arrived. How would they navigate this new turn of events? And could kindness still light the way? Melissa felt as if the room had suddenly shrunk. The laughter and chatter faded into a tense silence as the mayor stepped inside, flanked by the board members. She could sense the wall of hesitance rising again, the warmth threatened by the chill of authority. The joyful atmosphere shivered under the weight of their presence. "Good evening, everyone," the mayor said, his voice deep and commanding. He surveyed the crowd, taking in the cookie plates and warm smiles. Yet there was a hint of skepticism in his eyes. "I've come to see what is going on here." Melissa's heart raced. Had they come to shut this down? Just when something beautiful was beginning. "Mayor," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "We're just sharing some food, stories, building a sense of community." She motioned toward Frank, sitting quietly but determinedly, and added, "We're helping each other heal." The mayor's gaze followed her hand, landing on Frank. The corners of his mouth tightened, but he nodded slowly. "I see. It's good to see neighbors together." He cleared his throat, and Melissa felt the tension shift slightly, like the pressure before a storm broke. "Community is important, especially in tough times," one of the board members, a woman with sharp features, interjected. "But we also need to uphold safety and make sure the gatherings are within the law." Jamie peered up at Melissa, eyes flickering with worry. She knelt beside him, squeezing his shoulder reassuringly. "We're just making memories," she whispered, hoping to ease his tension. "Right?" Mrs. Harper stepped forward, emboldened by Melissa's bravery. "It's just cookies, Mayor," she said, a gentle smile breaking through the uncertainty. "We're all friends here. Sometimes it's the small things that lift our spirits." Another neighbor chimed in. "And Frank, he's one of us now. We all need a chance, don't we?" Frank shifted in his seat, his shyness mixing with newfound confidence. "I'm just trying to find my way back," he said, each word coming out a little stronger. "I want to be a part of this community, not a problem." The mayor shifted his weight, clearly conflicted. "You're right," he finally admitted, his voice quieter. "We've all struggled in one way or another. But I need to see that these gatherings promote unity, not division." A small sigh of relief washed over the room, but Melissa knew the conversation wasn't over. Could they really create a bridge between what the mayor expected and what they needed? "Perhaps we could do this together?" Melissa suggested, her heart trembling with hope. "If we show the community that it works, maybe we can get your support." The mayor looked contemplative, glancing back at the board members, who exchanged uncertain looks. If it gets the community involved and doesn't violate any regulations, then perhaps before he could finish, the crowd erupted in murmurs. Faces lit with excitement, but Melissa could see the tension still poised like a taut wire. Let us work together, she pressed, determination rising within her. I'll think about it. The mayor finally offered a small, reluctant smile. But I won't promise anything yet. As he turned to leave, Melissa felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. This could be the beginning of something incredible, or it could all come crashing down. The door closed softly behind the mayor and his board members, but the sense of unease lingered. The laughter resumed, cautiously, but doubt still clung to the edges of the room. Had they truly made progress, or just scratched the surface? Melissa locked eyes with Frank, their shared uncertainty spinning into a silent understanding. This was far from over. Hey, let us celebrate what we started, Jamie exclaimed, reaching for another cookie, and the crowd buzzed with renewed energy. But deep down, Melissa couldn't shake the feeling that bigger challenges loomed on the horizon. What would it take to turn this fragile spark into a blazing fire? And would they find the strength to keep going when the world felt like it was pushing back? As laughter mingled with the sweet scent of cookies, a new thread of hope wove into the fabric of their gathering. But Melissa knew the real test was yet to come, and her heart beat with determination as she watched everyone around her. Would they be brave enough to face it together? The atmosphere in the room lightened a tad, but doubt still hovered like a thick fog. Melissa breathed deeply, willing herself to embrace the moment, even as her mind swirled with uncertainty. Jamie dove into the cookies, and laughter filled the corners again. It was a fragile kind of joy, but it was joy nonetheless. Melissa, look at this. Jamie bounced over, a cookie almost too big for his small hands. He grinned, chocolate smudged on his cheek, embodying pure delight. For a fleeting moment, everything felt right. But that moment slipped away quickly. As Melissa scanned the crowd, she saw familiar faces. Mrs. Harper still beamed with the kind of warmth that made life feel a touch brighter, while others exchanged hopeful glances. Yet, lurking in the corners were the wary eyes of those not yet convinced, the ones who had seen too much or doubted too deeply. Shall we share stories next? Mrs. Harper suggested, breaking the heavy silence that clamored just under the surface. I'm sure there's plenty to tell. Yes, Melissa called out, her voice hinting at the need to draw everyone in closer. Maybe we can each share something that brings us hope. Frank straightened in his seat, the weight of expectation igniting that flicker of courage again. They needed unity more than anything. I can start, he stammered, his voice gaining volume. When I first moved back here, I felt alone, lost really. But now, I'm seeing how it can be when we face things together. A couple of people nodded, and Melissa felt a rush of determination. Maybe this was the moment they needed to turn their fragile gathering into something stronger, something unstoppable. I remember when times were tough for us, too, Mrs. Harper said warmly, her eyes glinting with memories. But we got through it all because we had our friends beside us, and sometimes that's all it takes. One by one, others chimed in. Each story unfolded lines of struggle punctuated by glimmers of resilience. They recounted small victories, community outreach projects, and moments of kindness that reminded them they were never truly alone. Their shared laughter rang out like a chorus, and Melissa realized they were stitching together the fabric of a support system. Yet, the specter of the mayor's concerns loomed large overhead. How would they ensure this unity didn't buckle under scrutiny? Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. All heads turned, hearts thumping anew. Melissa's heart raced as she glanced toward Frank. The joyful chatter stopped, the air charged with anticipation. What now? Another board member? More authority? Or worse, were they about to face a reprimand? She took a step forward, not ready to let fear bring down the progress they had made that evening. She opened the door with shaky fingers, ready to hold her ground. Who is there? She called out, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. In that moment, hope collided with fear. The door cracked open, revealing a young girl, perhaps 7 years old, clutching a small box. She looked up with wide eyes, shining with innocence and curiosity. "I'm here for the cookies, too," she announced, a satisfying giggle escaping her lips as she beamed at the group behind Melissa. The mood shifted instantly. Laughter bubbled back to life, surging through the room like a refreshing breeze. "What's in the box?" Jamie asked, excitement suddenly sparking back into his own eyes. The girl opened the box, revealing its soft contents. Not cookies, but handmade drawings, bright, colorful, and filled with imaginations that spoke of hope. "I drew these for my new friends," she said, stepping inside, a shy smile adorning her face. Melissa couldn't help but feel the weight of possibilities rushing in. They had to bridge their differences. It started small and would lead to something bigger. In a single moment, the room pulsed with renewed energy, and Melissa's breath caught in her throat. What had begun as a simple gathering had transformed into something profound. But as anticipation thrummed through her veins, a deeper question lingered. Could this small act of kindness endure the scrutiny of those who still doubted their unity? Would they leap again into the unknown together? The crowd buzzed around her, but as Melissa watched the little girl blend into their circle, she knew the heart of their community was beginning to beat stronger. What they needed now was to keep those hearts synchronized. Melissa felt a flicker of hope igniting within her, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The laughter continued to swirl in the room, filling the gaps left by lingering uncertainties. Melissa watched as Jamie knelt by the girl, his eyes wide with wonder at the drawing she had brought. The sketches were bursting with color flowers in full bloom, suns shining bright, and figures dancing freely, evoking a sense of joy that mirrored the room's newfound spirit. "Can I keep one?" Jamie asked eagerly, reaching for a drawing of a tree, its leaves swirling in shades of green and yellow. "Of course." The girl beamed, delighted at the thought of her artwork being cherished. "They're for everyone." Melissa couldn't help but smile at the innocence and generosity of youth. It was a reminder that hope often comes in unexpected shapes. She stepped further into the room, her heart swelling at the sight. This was what community could look like, a patchwork of stories, doubts, laughter, and now, the unyielding creativity of a child. "What's your name, sweetie?" Mrs. Harper asked, kneeling to the girl's level. "Molly," she replied proudly, a sparkle in her eyes. Melissa noticed how the room shifted focus. Adults were crouching down, kneeling, and leaning in to hear Molly's stories of each drawing. It was a collective embrace, a tangible sign that something beautiful was blooming right there. As the conversations flowed, Melissa caught sight of Frank at the edge of the group. He was watching with an intensity that mirrored her own. The flicker of uncertainty in his eyes had been replaced by a glimmer of hope. Inspired by the moment, she gathered her thoughts and spoke up, wanting to keep that warmth radiating. "Everyone, let us remember that just like Molly here, we each have something precious to share," she began, her voice steadying with purpose. "These last few weeks have felt heavy, but what we share and create together can lift those weights." Some nodded, voices murmurings of agreement weaving through the crowd. "We have to keep sharing our joys, our hopes, and yes, even our fears, the way we did tonight together." Suddenly, a lingering doubt crept back into Melissa's mind. She glanced toward the door, wondering if the mayor had caught wind of their gathering. Was the specter of oversight still looming? Had any objection to their unity already been set in motion, waiting for the perfect moment to strike with the weight of authority? Before she could dwell on that fear, a cheerful shout from Jamie broke through. "Look at this one." He held up another drawing, this one featuring a family holding hands, their smiles radiant. "That's a good one, Jamie." Someone chimed in from the back. "It's like we're creating our own family here, one drawing at a time." A ripple of affirmation surged through the group, and Melissa felt her own realization ignite within. Their bond was not just about sharing cookies or stories. It was about building connections that transcended initial doubts. With Molly leading the charge, the stories began to flow anew. Tales emerged of neighbors helping neighbors, of a community garden that flourished against the odds, of workshops that taught skills in hopes of uplifting everyone involved. Each shared experience built another layer over any cracks that remained. Yet, with every tale of hope, the question loomed, could all that they had started hold against external pressures? As they delved deeper into their stories, Melissa made a quiet promise to herself. No matter who criticized, no matter the challenges ahead, she would fight to keep this spirit aflame. But just then, another knock echoed from the door, sharp and insistent. The laughter died down, and Melissa's stomach knotted. She exchanged glances with Frank, who looked just as unsettled. What awaited them now? Would it be a chance for their dream to take flight, or would it be a threat they could not ignore? The knock resonated like a sudden chill, slicing through the warmth of the room. Silence fell, drawing the weight of uncertainty closer. Melissa's heart raced as she exchanged worried looks with Frank. The vibrant energy that had filled the air moments before felt distant now. "Should I answer it?" Jamie whispered, his youthful excitement dampening into concern. "Let me," Melissa replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She stepped toward the door, each step heavy with trepidation. As she reached for the handle, another strong beat echoed from behind her, a collective breath held in anxious anticipation. With a firm grip, she pulled the door open. Standing there was a figure cloaked in shadow, an older woman, her face strained and weathered from years of hardship. The street lamp illuminated her features, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and eyes that flickered with distress. "I'm sorry to interrupt," the woman stammered, her voice cracking like fragile glass. "I heard the voices and I didn't know where else to go." Melissa's heart sank. "Of course, come in." She stepped aside, allowing the woman to shuffle in. Behind her, the others watched with a mix of curiosity and compassion. As the woman entered, she glanced around, taking in the gathering. The warmth of the room seemed to blanket her cold exterior. Molly, always the beacon of kindness, rushed up to her. "Do you want to see my drawings?" she asked, holding out her collection with both hands, the pages fluttering like proud flags. The woman's eyes softened, a tender smile breaking through her earlier melancholy. "Oh dear, they're lovely. You are very talented," she said, kneeling to meet Molly's gaze. Melissa watched this exchange, a sense of quiet hope blossoming again. Perhaps this stranger's arrival was a sign, another thread in the fabric they had started weaving together. "Can you tell us why you're here?" Frank asked gently, stepping forward to bridge the gap between their worlds. The woman sighed deeply, her shoulders vibrating with anxiety. I'm struggling." She took a moment, collecting herself. "I lost my job last month. The bills are piling up, and my kids, they deserve so much more than I can give them." The words hung in the air, thickening with the weight of reality. A quiet empathy spread among the group, each person sharing a piece of the older woman's burden. Frank shifted closer, his expression firm. "You're not alone. We can help," he assured her, his voice full of sincerity. Small nods of agreement floated through the room, mingling with murmurs of encouragement. Melissa's heart surged. This was what community meant, connecting in moments of need, unearthing the strength to lift each other. She stepped forward, her own voice steady. "We have resources, skills, and we can help you navigate this. Let us figure this out together." The woman looked at each of them, the shadows of despair still lingering in her eyes, but lightening with burgeoning hope. "You would do that for me?" she asked, disbelief etched in her voice. "Absolutely," Jamie exclaimed, a sparkle of determination igniting in his demeanor. "We're like a family now." As the group began sharing thoughts and ideas, Melissa noticed something stirring inside the woman. A flicker of belief started to awaken, igniting a light that had been dimmed for too long. But beneath the newfound warmth, another sensation arose, a deep-rooted fear that this fragile moment could easily be cut short. Would outsiders see this act of kindness as a liability, a disruption to their already questioned unity? Would the mayor's office retaliate against them for reaching out? Just as those thoughts swirled, another sharp knock rapped against the door. firm and unyielding once more. Everyone turned, their expressions shifting from hope to worry. Melissa's breath caught, the weight of the unknown settling heavily on her chest. What news awaited them on the other side? Would it be another hand reaching out or a storm brewing against their fragile dreams? Melissa's hand hovered over the door handle, her heart pounding. The warm murmur of shared solidarity inside the room clashed with the cold anxiety creeping just beyond the door. She hesitated, glancing back at the group. Frank's steady gaze offered reassurance, but she could see the twinge of worry etched on his brow. Who could it be? Jamie whispered, his youthful curiosity battling fear. Let us find out, Melissa responded, nodding firmly. She braced herself and pulled the door open once more. The porch was empty except for the fading echoes of the knock. Confusion settled across her features. "Hello," she called out, peering into the dimly lit street. Just as she was about to close the door, a soft voice spoke up from the shadows. "I'm here." A small boy emerged hesitantly, clutching a frayed backpack that seemed much too big for his slight frame. His eyes, wide with apprehension, flitted from Melissa to the others inside. "Is it my mom here?" he stammered, the words spilling out, laced with apprehension and a hint of hope. A jolt coursed through the room. Melissa's heart sank even further, the reality of the woman's struggles flooding back. "Your mom?" she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. The boy nodded vigorously, desperation etched in the lines of his face. "She said she'd be here." Before anyone could respond, the older woman, their visitor moments ago, rushed forward. "Eli!" she exclaimed, knelt down while open arms beckoned him closer. The boy rushed into her embrace, burying himself in her worn sweater, a lock of relief washing over them both. "Oh, sweetheart," she cried, her voice muffled against his hair. "You're safe now. I thought I lost you." The group stood in awe, tears springing to Melissa's eyes as she witnessed this reunion. The warmth of family broke through the emotional chill that had settled minutes before. But then a new tension arose. "What brings you out here alone?" Frank asked gently, casting a concerned glance at the woman and her son. She pulled back from the embrace, her expression shadowed with guilt and pain. "I thought I could manage. I didn't want to involve him, but I couldn't think of anything else. I had to find help." Melissa felt a wave of sympathy wash over her, suddenly understanding the weight of this woman's struggle. She stepped aside, motioning for them to come inside. "You're here now. Let us talk and figure out how we can help your family." As they settled back into the warmth of the room, the air grew thick with conversation. They shared ideas, resources, and the kind of hope that has the power to uplift even the heaviest burdens. Just then, Molly, wide-eyed and brimming with curiosity, approached the table where the two stood, her sketches flapping slightly in the breeze of the open window. "Do you think your kids might want to see my drawings?" she asked gently, eyes sparkling with innocence. The woman glanced down at Eli, who had relaxed slightly, his little fingers entwined in his mother's. "You'd like that, wouldn't you, honey?" she prodded. Eli's face broke into a bright smile at the idea. As the children gathered, the atmosphere shifted again. Laughter began to ripple through the room, each small giggle knitting together a stronger bond. But uncertainty lurked just beneath, reminding Melissa that this moment of warmth could very well be a fleeting one. As she caught Frank's eye, she saw the unspoken worry reflected in his gaze. What would the outside world think of their growing family? Just then, another knock echoed through the room. A more authoritative sound, this time demanding attention. Their laughter stilled, and all eyes turned toward the door once again. What awaited them this time, a friend or a foe? And could this fragile moment survive another interruption? The room fell silent, every heartbeat a drum echoing in the stillness that followed the knock. Melissa's stomach tightened. She shared a quick glance with Frank, the unasked questions hanging in the air. What if it was someone looking for the woman? Someone who would tear apart this fragile piece? Another knock came, louder this time. The shadows beyond the door seemed to loom, thickening the air with uncertainty. "Should we answer it?" Jamie whispered, his youthful curiosity replaced with apprehension. "Yes," Melissa said, refusing to let fear dictate their actions. "We can't hide away." With a firm grip on the door handle, she swung it open once more, steeling herself for whatever awaited her. The light from inside spilled onto the porch, illuminating a tall figure cloaked in a long coat. A police officer stood just outside, authoritative yet wary as his eyes scanned the room. "Good evening," he said, his voice even but firm. "I received a call about a disturbance in the area. Is everything all right here?" The tension in Melissa's body turned into a wave of relief intertwined with new anxiety. She could feel the expecting gaze of Eli and his mother behind her. What if this man called them out? What if he threatened their little sanctuary? "Yes, officer," Melissa replied, her hands trembling slightly. "It's just a gathering, a family moment." "Is that so?" The officer frowned, peering past her. "Are you sure? I need to ensure everyone is safe." Just as Melissa caught Frank's concerned expressions reflected in Eli's innocent eyes, the mother stepped closer, her voice brave despite the tremor. "It's true. I've just found my son. I was lost for a while, trying to get help." The officer's stance softened, his gaze more calculating than confrontational. "You're Eli's mother?" he asked, tilting his head slightly as he processed her words. "Yes," she nodded, passion replacing desperation as she explained. "I didn't want him to see me struggle, but I had to find support." Her voice lowered, the weight of her admission staggering. Melissa watched as the officer absorbed her story. Empathy flickered in his eyes. "All right, I understand. Just making sure you're okay." The room collectively exhaled. The tension dissolved for the moment, shrouded in a fragile peace. But the officer hesitated, so close to leaving but still on duty. "If it's family help you need, there are resources available. I can give you information." "Please," Melissa interjected, eager for understanding. "We want to support her. We can help." As fresh ink flowed onto a notepad, small conversations bubbled in the background. Eli drew closer to Molly, pointing excitedly at the drawing she had made, their earlier laughter returning in soft giggles. "I can put you in touch with local shelters and social services," the officer continued, jotting down names and numbers. "It sounds like you're all trying to create something special here. Just be careful." "Thank you," the woman said, a deep sincerity in her voice. As he turned to leave, the officer glanced back, the door framing him with the fading daylight behind. "Remember, you're not alone." He stepped off the porch, boots crunching on the gravel. The warmth returned to the room, but questions circled like vultures, practicality battling emotion. Melissa turned to her group, who were still buzzing from the earlier reunion. "What do we do now?" she asked. Suddenly, Eli's voice cut through. "Can I have my mom's drawing?" That silly request broke the weight of hesitation, drawing everyone back into a circle of laughter. Yet, even as joy swirled, the uneasy sense of urgency lingered. And just as they settled into each other's stories, convinced of their new family, another knock echoed through the room, heavier this time, as if the night's biggest secret waited outside. Their laughter faded once more, replaced by an anxious silence. Who, or what, would come through the door next? Melissa stood motionless, the final knock echoing in her ears. The joy they had just reclaimed felt precarious, like a delicate ornament hanging by a thread. She caught the questioning eyes of her children, their hopes tethered to her resolve. Frank was still lingering at the table, a quiet storm of emotions brewing under his calm demeanor. The door shifted slightly on its hinges, and for a moment, Melissa hesitated, fear coiling in her stomach. She took a deep breath, steeling herself before reaching for the handle again. As she opened the door wide, a cascade of muted winter light spilled into the room that a woman stepped forward, her warm presence contrasting the coldness outside. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, her voice soft yet grounded. She clutched a batch of cookies in her hand, a welcome gift, a bridge-building gesture. As Melissa processed the sight, a wave of relief flooded over her. "No, you're just in time," she exclaimed, motioning the woman inside. "We're celebrating together." The woman stepped into the warmth of the house, glancing around at the gathering, now bustling with life and camaraderie. The laughter bubbled back into the air, and Melissa felt an infectious lift. Could this new arrival help to solidify their community? What is going on here? The woman asked diligently, her eyes flitting from the drawings on the table to the laughter filling the rooms. One big family gathering, Jamie piped up, raising a cookie in triumph. We're building friendships. As the woman smiled, it dawned on Melissa that, slowly but surely, their little community was beginning to embrace openness and healing. The sound of the children laughing, the older folks sharing stories, and the aroma of freshly baked cookies filled every corner of the room, melding into a symphony of belonging. Yet, just as every smile felt contagious, a worried frown creased Frank's brow. What if this is too much for them? What if the response isn't good? The uncertainty was palpable. Just then, the previous officer's words seeped back into Melissa's mind. You're not alone. That flicker of faith took hold, igniting a fire in her heart. Listen, Melissa began, addressing the gathering with her voice steady. We started this to bring people together, to build a family. We've spoken about struggles, and now we have to acknowledge that community means facing those challenges, welcoming everyone, and growing together. The atmosphere shifted. Neighbors who once stood at the edges, peering in with skepticism, leaned closer, nodding in agreement, their expressions softening. Yeah, we've all been through tough times. Mrs. Harper spoke up, her once wary demeanor replaced by newfound conviction. It's time we support one another. The crowd began to nod, voices layering over each other, building momentum. Frank stepped forward, giving voice to their collective heartbeat. Let us not wait in fear. Let us show them what kindness can achieve when we're united. A chorus of agreement arose, each affirmation weaving the community tighter. Melissa's heart soared. This was the moment she had dreamed of, a united front transformed from fragile whispers into a symphony of hope. As laughter intermingled with strength, the door creaked open once more. The sound of heavy boots heralded another visitor, and all eyes turned. This time, it was the mayor, his face softened by an unfamiliar smile. I heard some commotion, he said, glancing around the room, taking in the unity radiating from each smiling face. And I thought I should see for myself. Despite the initial tension, Melissa stood tall, her heart racing as the mural of their shared stories came rushing back. We're building a community, Mayor, a family that supports each other, especially when times get tough. His skepticism faltered, replaced by a flicker of understanding. It seems you've started something important, he admitted slowly. I'd like to see how it can help. It may just be the strength we all need. A cheer erupted from the group, the sound reverberating with authenticity and resilience. The barriers had begun to crack, as hope flowed freely through the room. As she watched their community embrace each other, a profound transformation echoed through Melissa's heart. The embodiment of their shared struggles now sparked a bright future where everyone had a place, a future woven carefully through love, laughter, and boundless kindness. In that electrifying moment, she realized they weren't just helping a stranger, they were saving one another. And in that small town, where once discontent shadowed their hearts, a vibrant tapestry of connection took flight. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss any of our inspiring stories. This is the moment to show your support with a like. Feed the algorithm that brings these stories to life. Comment below about your feelings toward the ending. Let us talk about it. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us keep spreading love and connection.